And Javon, I want to come to you because you're his friend. You were on the island on the 4th. You were on a different boat. Do you recall seeing him at all that day?
Yes, ma'am. I did see him when I was out there on the island.
Can you tell me what you saw? Does anything seem strange to you about the difference that people are saying of how he was separated from the group?
No, ma'am. I don't think that Nolan would say, hey, bro, I'm staying with this girl on the island.
A competing perspective is now questioning the explanation that has framed Nolan's final known hours. Members of the group who were with him have said he decided to remain on Horn Island after meeting a young woman, expecting to secure another ride later. That version has been repeated in several interviews and has changed very little over time. The challenge comes from Javon Williams, Nolan's closest friend. In a CNN interview, Javon said Nolan was not someone who normally let the people he arrived with leave without him. From years of friendship, he understood Nolan to follow a simple pattern. If he went somewhere with a group, he came back with that group. For Javon, the story being told does not match the person he knew. Nolan's father has raised a similar concern. He has said the family cannot make sense of why Nolan would suddenly separate from the people he traveled with, especially when staying together had always been treated as a basic safety rule. Their doubts do not prove that the friend group's account is wrong, but they create a serious conflict between Nolan's usual behavior and the choice he is said to have made that afternoon. That distinction matters. Character evidence can be meaningful, but it is not the same as witnessing the final conversation. Javon did not hear every word exchanged before the boat departed, and he does not claim to know exactly what Nolan decided in that moment. Still, his years of knowing Nolan give his concern weight and make the accepted explanation harder to dismiss without further examination. The case should therefore be measured by more than repetition. Statements need to be compared with timelines, digital records, medical findings, physical evidence, and independent witnesses. A consistent story can still be incomplete, while a conflicting account can raise valid questions without becoming proof. Before turning fully to Javon's interview, another set of unresolved issues deserves attention. Nancy Grace recently discussed the conflicting witness accounts, the reported medical findings, and the tissue retained after the state examination. Her comments did not settle the case, but they highlighted why several explanations remain possible and why the evidence still leaves important gaps that investigators must still address.
There were 300 to 400 people out on Horns Island. You mean to tell me nobody saw anything?
Any parent that would be in this situation, you would do anything to find out what happened to your child.
Joining us now, Nancy Grace, former special prosecutor and host of Crime Stories with Nancy Grace. You know, Nancy, Attorney Ben Crump there has a point. You mean no one saw anything? Where do you see this investigation, where things stand?
I've got a lot of problems with the investigation so far, but remember, we are seeing through a mirror darkly. We don't know all the evidence. There's been one state's autopsy, and that has not been released. The family sent the body of Nolan Wells for a second independent autopsy, and that autopsy says undetermined. This is what I do know, Griff. I know on the back of his head, the occipital bone back here, there is deep red subcutaneous tissue. It's not anywhere else. It is not pooling of the blood once he's died. The blood pools at the lowest point. It's not that, because it's only there. I'm curious, does that suggest a blow to the head? There are many accidental possibilities. When you look at the video out there are tons of boats. They're close together. Did he drink and drown in between one of those boats and nobody noticed? I don't know that. However, that deep reddening on the occipital bone is very disturbing to me. Also, you think, oh, he drowned, but we don't have the lungs. When the second autopsy got the body, the lungs and the throat were missing. Now, I understand, Griff, why they took the lungs to determine if he had drowned, but why was the neck missing? What about the interior of the throat sparked the initial medical examiner's concern? Was there some bruising on the neck? I don't know. So right now, it could go in so many different directions. But let me tell you this, the call that the friends made when they were returning without Nolan, they say he wanted to stay and be with a friend girl he just met. Katie, says, no, he left with his friends. I got a problem right there. That's a conflict in the testimony. But when you listen to the call the other friends made, they called Seatow, S-E-A-T-O-W, and said, we're sinking. In this newly released sound, you can make out somebody saying, wake the F up. What does that mean? I'm not resting till I find out if that's real. Has it been doctored? And if it is real, who are they talking to?
So many questions that you raise, Nancy, and as someone who's investigated these things, you know which questions to ask. I want to take you back, though, because that marking on the back of his head is not insignificant, as you rightfully point out, because also the size of it, right? It's like a 12 by 8. I mean, it's not a small clue in this. Expand on that a bit, if you will.
Yes, that's perfect. Right there is showing exactly where the reddened tissue is, and is subcutaneous under the skin. Now, as we all know, in an autopsy, the skin is pulled away from the body to look at the tissue underneath the skin. That's where the second medical examiner, doctor, found it. Many people are arguing it was a blow to the back of the head. Many people argue he fell, hit his head on the boat, and went over. Well, if that happened, didn't anybody see him? So it's going to boil down to witness testimony and what that neck truly reveals. Again, why did the first medical examiner keep that part of the body? It was not sent to the second autopsy. That raises my antenna. There's a lot of hate going on around this case. It's very hard to understand. Again, it could be accidental. It may not be. And we can't stop the investigation until we know. This young man was 18. You know how old my twins are? 18. And I would be lying on the front of the courthouse steps screaming for an answer till I got one.
The issues Nancy Grace raised are not new in the Nolan Wells investigation. They are the same unanswered questions present from the start. She drew attention to the deep red discoloration found beneath the skin at the back of Nolan's head. She also questioned why the state kept tissue from his neck and throat instead of returning it with the rest of his remains. She further noted the conflict between Katie's account and the explanation repeatedly given by the friend group. Grace did not claim those details prove one theory. She made clear that the information does not establish what happened. Several accidental scenarios remain possible, and the evidence could point investigators in more than one direction. Until the medical findings and witness accounts are examined together, certainty would be premature. That approach matters. The goal is not to declare a final answer before investigators finish their work. It is to examine what is known, identify what remains disputed, and avoid treating suspicion as fact. Another perspective has emerged. It comes from someone close to Nolan. His account does not explain what happened on Horn Island, but it challenges whether the story repeated for weeks matches Nolan's usual behavior. Before considering that challenge, the original account should be reviewed. Truss Shepard, one of Nolan's friends on Horn Island, discussed the events in an interview with ABC's Good Morning America. Shepard said he left the island by boat during the late afternoon of July 4th, while Nolan stayed behind with a young woman he had met earlier that day. According to Shepard, Nolan and the woman had only met on the island, but Nolan appeared interested in spending more time with her. Shepard also said July 4th was the only occasion the two had been together. He stated that he spoke with investigators and that the group cooperated with law enforcement. Warren Hudson offered a similar explanation. He described mechanical trouble aboard the boat, including a bilge pump problem that allowed water to build up. That issue reportedly made leaving necessary. Hudson said the group departed believing Nolan had chosen to remain behind and would return with someone else. This explanation has not been given only once. Several people connected to the group have repeated similar versions in separate interviews over several weeks. That consistency matters and should not be ignored because a different account has emerged. Repeated statements can strengthen an account when the main details remain stable. Still, consistency does not automatically make every part of a story conclusive. Investigations also depend on whether statements are supported by physical evidence, digital records, timelines, and independent witnesses. A credible contradiction can change how an account is examined, even when it does not disprove it. For much of the investigation, the claim that Nolan willingly stayed behind faced little public opposition from anyone who knew him closely. That changed when Javon Williams spoke. Javon has been identified as Nolan's best friend. He is not commenting from a distance or relying only on online discussion. He knew Nolan for years and was present on Horn Island that day. According to his account to the Sun-Herald, he planned to travel on the same boat as Nolan, but there was not enough space before it left. He boarded another boat instead. Javon also described the final time he saw Nolan. That memory remained important because he did not know it would become their last meeting. His statements do not establish what occurred later, but they introduce a personal challenge to the idea that Nolan would normally allow his friends to leave without him. That disagreement adds another unresolved question to the case.
Miss Christine, how are you and your family holding up?
A lot of praying, a lot of just leaning on each other in this moment and just taking it day by day. That's really all we can do right now. It's been hard. You know, every day is different. And really every second is different, which is something people need to understand. Grief is not one emotion, right? It's multiple emotions and they're all happening at the same time. And so it's just like 1 minute I can be I can be okay like this and I can talk about it. And then the next minute I'm breaking down in tears because it's a constant reminder, because if I'm being honest, we really just have not had time to fully grieve with everything that's going on.
This is your baby, and everyone must understand that. And Javon, I want to come to you because you're his friend. You were on the island on the 4th. You were on a different boat. Do you recall seeing him at all that day?
Yes, ma'am. I did see him when I was out there on the island.
Can you tell me what you saw? Does anything seem strange to you about the difference that people are saying of how he was separated from the group?
No, ma'am. I don't think that Nolan would say, hey, bro, I'm staying with this girl on the island. Y'all go ahead and go back without even bringing it, like not even asking to get his phone back. You know what I mean? I don't think that any of that.
What makes you so sure about that? Because, I mean, you've been with him. You've spent a lot of time with him. Did you know him to be someone to leave his phone or even say, you guys go without me?
Never. I've never known Nolan to stay back while his friends leave. He's always been a guy where if he rode with you, he's going to come back with you. That's always how he's been every single time.
You know, this friend of his, Trayston, also told ABC that video people have been talking about that was said to show some sort of altercation, it did not involve Nolan. He said it was actually him yelling in the video and that you and a family member were holding him back because he'd been in a fight. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am. We were calming Trayston down. In that video where he said, give me my effing phone back, it sounds like him. So I'm pretty sure that he was right on that. But
Javon, I'm so sorry to think about what you must be going through and thinking about what's happened to Nolan. I mean, you mentioned a phone. Tashima, a huge question so many people have is why he would have left his cell phone behind. And you say you were the person who actually went and retrieved that phone for the family. How did you get your hands on the phone? Where was it?
That is correct. Christine called me and told me, hey, where are the boys? Nolan hasn't been heard from since such and such time. Where are your boys? I said, well, Javon is with his girlfriend, and I just spoke with Jalen, and they are headed to downtown, which I was literally getting ready to get in the shower to go downtown as well. She said, well, Nolan hasn't been. So I instantly called with Christine on the phone, Javon. Javon said no, he hadn't seen Nolan since early on the island. And he was like, what? are y'all serious? And we was like, yes. And so Christine intervened in the conversation, said, Nolan has not have been heard from since he left the island. So Javon was like, well, that's when I seen it. I haven't seen it since then. Again, everybody goes their separate ways. So I then hang up from Javon because obviously there's nothing he can say to tell me anything. So then Jalen, I call him. Jalen did not answer the phone. Christine again is on the phone. Jalen did not answer the phone. LeBaron, he didn't answer the phone. I called LeBaron, which is their other friend, LeBaron Broomfield. He answered. He said, Jalen is in the gas station. Hold on. So he said, hey, Jalen, Mom on the phone. So he was like, Jalen, like, what's up, Mom? What's going on? I was like, hey, have y'all heard from Nolan? They said, no, we have not heard from Nolan.
But where was the phone?
So I was like, well, okay, so that's when we started checking the phone. Well, for Christine, it said one place, but for them on Snapchat, it showed another place. So that's the place we went to. And it showed that everybody that was in the house, it was like a lot of people there. Like I'm not familiar with all the kids. I only know like one there, but it showed that the phone was at what a lot of people were at. So that's how we knew where to go to. We went there. They were all there. They were sitting there, lights off, watching TV.
Did they immediately give you the phone? Because knowing that phone was there.
It took about 15. They did. They gave me the phone, but it took about 15 minutes to get the phone. Because I even asked, I'm like, did y'all have to walk back to Horn Island to get the phone? Or like, where's the phone? Because it took so long when they said it was when Wyatt told me it was in his truck. It took him so long to get the phone back to me. So when they brought the phone back.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tashima. I want to hear that.
When they brought the phone, after I said something about it, he was like, well, she's going to get it. I was like, who's going to get it? He's like, the girl's going to get the phone.
The moment we arrived, he expressed his love for me. Those parting words, according to Javon, marked the final exchange he ever shared with his closest companion. Let that sink in for a moment before analyzing the conflicting narratives. This perspective doesn't originate from a distant observer assembling internet rumors or viral speculation. It comes directly from an individual who was physically present on Horn Island that fateful holiday, if someone who unknowingly watched his closest confidant walk away forever. Now, stepping forward publicly, Javon is detailing exactly why the official story, the one circulated since day one, strikes him as completely illogical. The significance of this interview lies in his specific reasoning, not just a broad summary of his grief. While speaking with CNN's Laura Coates, Javon directly challenged the prevailing narrative that Nolan willingly chose to be left stranded. His rebuttal was blunt and unambiguous. He stated unequivocally that he could not fathom Nolan casually announcing he was ditching his crew to stay with a new acquaintance. Furthermore, Javon emphasized that this wasn't merely a gut feeling. It was a firm conviction forged over years of observing Nolan's deep loyalty to his inner circle. According to Javon, Nolan simply wasn't the type to abandon his ride. If he traveled to a destination with a specific group, his steadfast rule was to always travel back home with them. Notice the precision of his argument. He isn't offering a vague assessment of his friend's mood. He is highlighting a deeply ingrained behavioral pattern that remained constant throughout their entire relationship. It is a tangible habit that investigators can actually weigh and verify. However, it is equally crucial to recognize what Javon is not claiming. He readily admits he was not an eyewitness to the specific instant Nolan allegedly opted to stay. He wasn't within earshot of those final conversations. Rather, he is supplying the invaluable context of a long-term friend, pointing out a glaring discrepancy between the official account and the core character of the young man he knew. Before we gauge the full impact of Javon's testimony, another critical factor demands our focus. He isn't a lone dissenting voice. Nolan's father, Elmore Wanley, has stepped into the public eye to echo this exact same apprehension, and by all appearances, he reached this conclusion completely independently. Elmore has consistently voiced his family's utter bewilderment at the notion of their son voluntarily parting ways with his travel companions. He revealed that Nolan was specifically brought up with the strict principle of sticking by the people he arrived with, a rule instilled in him not as a lighthearted tip, but as a foundational life lesson. When the lifelong observations of a devoted father and a best friend align so perfectly, the shadows obscuring that final afternoon grow incredibly difficult to ignore.
Behind voluntarily. Why would he stay behind?
That we cannot answer. I can't fathom why he would. Like,
I don't know why he would. We always taught him to, if you go with a group, you stay with a group. Even when he was in college, he would say, Dad, well, we're going to ride down to a party or something in another city. So I always tell him, look, if you go with 5, you come back with 5. Do not separate from the group. So I always say, safety is in numbers. And he always said, yes, sir. So he knew to stay with his group. So why would he split from his group? I don't know.
So that would have been unusual for him to split from the group. And you said he would always check in with you. Did he check in with you that day?
so that day, no, I don't. But of course, too, they were on the boat, and usually when he is out there, which it's not uncommon, he's I think, but since last year, he's been going there occasionally with his friends, and so it would always just be like, "Hey, Mom, I'm back," type of thing. But this time there was no call or text from him; it was from his friend.
And then too, really didn't worry a lot about it because, it was his last weekend to have fun. Because that Monday he had to report to school. We was preparing to take him back for camp to prepare for the season. So, we're gonna see. He wanted to have his last little hurrah before he locked down and get ready for the season. Because, like I said, the entire summer he's training. He got more serious. He started to understand what I was trying to tell him about football, not just being fun, but as you get farther in it, it becomes a business. If you want to excel, you have to understand. You have to understand both at the same time.
Think about what this means. 2 people who knew Nolan best, his father and his lifelong best friend, came to the exact same worry on their own. They didn't copy each other or plan their stories together. They both just realized, based on years of knowing him, that the official story doesn't sound like him at all. That doesn't prove what happened on the island, but it is a strong pattern you can't just ignore. This isn't online gossip. These are 2 people with real, firsthand knowledge of who Nolan was. At the same time, we have to be careful not to jump to conclusions. A powerful statement can sound convincing without actually being proof. People sometimes do things totally out of character. A new person, a specific moment, or a hidden situation can make someone act in a way they never usually would. Even the people who know us best can be surprised by our choices. That is why we have to separate what feels unlikely from what can actually be proven with facts. The same rule applies to Javan's interview. He wasn't there when the boat left without Nolan. He didn't hear the last conversation, and he doesn't claim to know what Nolan was thinking right at the end. Instead, Javan is simply pointing out a lifelong habit. He is explaining why the popular version of events goes against everything he knew about his best friend. It is an argument based on character, not someone watching the event happen firsthand. Acknowledging that difference doesn't make his words less important. Whether it is Katie's story, the group's explanation, or Javan's perspective, every piece of information has its own value and its own limits. Character-based evidence matters, but it is not the same as seeing it with your own eyes. Recognizing that difference is essential for looking at the facts fairly.
Javon, have you seen the video that's been going around social media where people think that they're hearing an argument between people and they're wondering whether or not Nolan is one of the people in that argument? You just described that you had another friend, not Nolan, another friend who was in and got into a dispute. Is that video the other argument that you were talking about?
Yes.
So, but is that Nolan in the video?
I can't tell. It's too far away. But in that video, I feel like the voices are too clear. Like from the side, it's too clear for it to be that far away, for it to be Nolan arguing. And then also that altercation, it sounds just like my other friend that got into the altercation on the boat. And they were trying to, like, as he was in that altercation, I was calming him down. They were trying to get him out off the island. They were trying to get him back to land because he was just losing it. So
describe that. That's kind of interesting. What was that about?
He was just very hostile. Like he was just like really like mad. Like they were just trying to, like the parents on that boat were trying to get him out.
I'm curious if the police have, I know they said they're still investigating. Did any investigators ever speak to you about what you saw that day?
No, sir.
Really? Okay.
Cops have not talked to you yet.
No, sir.
That's odd.
I don't see why the cops would have to talk to me. I mean, obviously, like, you know, like I had said my plea, like, because whenever I had talked to the people at Sunheard, it was whenever, you know, the body was discovered and the autopsy people and all those people were there.
Well, I'll tell you why I'm surprised. Because you knew Nolan well, and you knew that he was friends with these guys who were the last ones to be around him before his body was found. And I would think they would at least want to know, hey, just the things we're asking.
Right.
You know, did you ever hear of any of this stuff? It's odd to me.
Just to gather information.
Yeah, that the cops wouldn't have contacted you. Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, I'm completely fine with that. Like I said, I have nothing to hide. Like, that's my boy, and I want him to find justice. Like that, like this whole case thing, like whatever, like this whole situation, and none of this adds up to me. So like, it's really hard, like for like people to just like keep on saying things when like none of it adds up, honestly.
So one of the things that I'm sure, Javon, you've seen has been a big part of this story, people making the point that, at least in the photos that we initially saw, that Nolan was the only African-American kid who was out there, at least on that boat. Do you think, having been there on the island with this large group of people, that race plays a factor in whatever happened here?
Again, I don't want to answer that. I don't want to answer that question. I wouldn't say like, yeah, I wouldn't want to answer that question. I mean, obviously we go to Ocean Springs, we're going to have white friends. So like,
Yeah, I mean, and I hear you. If that's,
that's fair.
You're saying that it's normal, it's not out of place to be.
Javon Williams has also addressed the debate over whether race played a role in Nolan's death. He said he does not believe the case is mainly about race, even though that view differs from part of the public discussion. He did not choose the most dramatic explanation. He simply stated what he believes. Still, other details continue to trouble him, especially how Nolan became separated from his phone and keys. Javon is not promoting a theory, but he also cannot accept a simple explanation while those questions remain unanswered. He knew Nolan personally, cared deeply about him, and believes parts of the story do not match the friend he remembers. Another important account comes from Javon's mother, Toshima Hans, who helped Christine search for Nolan's phone on the night he disappeared. According to Toshima, Christine's tracking app showed the phone in one place, while Snapchat appeared to show it somewhere else. Toshima went to the location identified by the tracker and found several teenagers inside a dark house. She said it took about 15 minutes for Nolan's phone to be returned. She was first told it was in a friend's truck, but later heard that a girl would bring it outside. The delay and changing explanations added confusion during an already frightening night. However, those details alone do not prove that anyone hid the phone or interfered with evidence. People may have been confused, frightened, or unsure where the device had been placed. What Toshima provides is a named first-hand account that adds another unanswered question to the case. The main explanation has remained largely consistent. Members of the friend group say Nolan chose to stay on Horn Island and planned to return with someone else. That account is now being challenged by Nolan's father and his lifelong best friend, who both say staying behind would have been unusual for him. Neither man witnessed the exact moment the boat left, so their statements do not disprove the group's version. They do, however, create a conflict between Nolan's known behavior and the decision he is said to have made that afternoon. When Toshima's account of the phone is added, the case becomes even less clear. Questions remain about where the phone was, who had it, and why its return took time. The state autopsy report has not been made public, final toxicology findings have not been released, and the grand jury has not yet convened. For now, the case remains unresolved. We will keep tracking every verified update using the exact same standard we applied tonight. Carefully, fairly, and keeping a sharp line between confirmed facts and lingering unknowns. Thank you so much for staying till the end of this story. If you want more truthful investigations, please subscribe to U.S. Crime Cases, turn on notifications, and stay with us. We will be right here when the next chapter of this investigation unfolds.